certain people just have, I call them ultra tendencies. Like they just have that type of challenge oriented personality where they want to explore and just see how far they can push it.
This is the Begin Within podcast, where we believe real, lasting health and fitness requires you to start inside before you work out. I'm your host, Nate Slegger, and I'm here to show you behind the scenes of fitness. You already know exercise is good for you, but what about all the other things in life that affect your fitness? If you're looking for extra motivation to get started or to make sure you keep going, this is the place for you.
Produced by BeginWithin.fit.
If you are working on getting healthier, losing weight, improving your fitness, whatever it is, but you have this feeling that you should be getting better results, you're just not sure what you might be doing wrong. Well, I want to tell you, you are not alone. And that is the very reason why I wrote my latest book, 5 Ways You're Wrecking Your Weight Loss, so that you can take a look at 5 of the most common reasons I see that people aren't getting the results that they deserve for all their hard work. Just 5 really quick fixes that can get you headed toward the results that you want. Check it out. You can download it by going to beginwithin.fit, clicking on the ebook button, or clicking on the link in the show notes. Check out my book. Let me know what you think. My guest today is ultra runner and running coach Jared Scray from journeyrunners.com. And he is going to share with us some of the mindset behind ultra running. Now, if you're like me, you're thinking, Nate, I am not going to be an ultra runner. I have no intention to do that. No bone in my body, no part of me wants to run a marathon, much less an ultra marathon. Hold on a second. That's what I thought too, until we got into this conversation, and I absolutely loved it because we are going to talk about mindset. We are going to talk about growth mindset. We're going to talk about what Jared calls ultra tendencies and ways to begin to stretch the mind. We're going to talk about that, and I think that you're going to really relate to it, especially when we wrap up with discussing ways that the lessons that he has learned in being an ultra runner himself and then helping others to achieve their ultra running goals and other goals around running and fitness, as he discusses the lessons and how they apply to us. So please tune in, listen carefully when we talk about ultra tendencies, when we talk about failure. We're going to use that word a lot, but it's going to be in a little bit different context than we typically think about it. And finally, we're going to use the phrase, or he's going to use the phrase, stretch your mind a few different times. So when you hear that, listen carefully as well. So here is my interview with ultra runner and coach Jared Scray.
Well, I was actually never really into endurance sports. I just played a ton of other sports. I always like football, basketball, baseball, all that type of stuff growing up. And then kind of in my mid 30s, I actually let myself go a little bit. I got a little bit out of shape, and I was like, I got to get myself back in shape. And at that time, I kind of crossed paths with our other coach, Clint Shareppa. And I said, yeah, someday I'd love to run a marathon. And he's like, well, if you do a marathon, you should just do an ultra marathon. It's only like 5 miles more, and do it on trails, because it may seem like it'd be harder, but it actually is a little easier on the body. And so I was like, yeah, 5, 6 more miles. Yeah, okay, why not? And so he kind of gave me the boost I needed, which I think certain people just have, I call them ultra tendencies. Like they just have that type of challenge oriented personality where they want to explore and just see how far they can push it. And so I signed up for a 50K. This would have been back in like 2012.
Okay.
And because I'm very OCD, I say, I got to do a 50-mile training plan. If I'm going to finish 50K, I better make sure my body can handle a 50-mile training plan. And I just downloaded one from the internet and I started following it, and everything went well. And it was kind of there where I first realized, where you can stretch the mind, because literally every week was like a new frontier. I was exploring. I had never even done a half marathon. I had never run 10 miles. And every week the training plan had you bumping it up. So it was like, wow, I just ran 10 miles for the first time. I never thought I could do it. And then the next week you're running 12, and it just keeps building. And you start to realize the distance is really relative. If you've never done it, sure, it seems like out of your realm of possibility. But then once you start doing it, well, if you've done 10 miles 3 weeks in a row, well, no, 12 isn't that big of a deal because you can do 10. And so I got to the week before the race. And since I had done the 50-mile training plan, I say, you know what? I might as well switch races and do the 50-mile. So I had never done even just like a 10K or a half marathon race. In training, I had done the mileage, but I never even done an event. And so I jumped in and did a 50-mile. It was my first like official running race, and it went great. I mean, air quotes, right? Great as 50 miles can feel. So there's cramping and sick stomach and all the things you would expect to happen. But wow, it blew my mind, just that trail running attitude, the camaraderie. And one thing about when you start doing ultra distances, even the elite people, the people that are winning the race and the guy that's finishing last, there's like this certain camaraderie because the distance itself is the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
It, Everybody knows that if you've run that far, you've all gone through some really difficult times. And, so after doing that race, I was hooked. And so then it's obviously, there's a progression. If you're going to challenge yourself with 50 miles, well, what about 100 kilometers? What about 100 miles? So, yeah, that didn't happen from one day to the next. Over many years, you build up to that. But yeah, just an amazing thing. It's ultra running is a special thing. There's a probably one of the best ultra runners of all time, Ann Trayson, and she says that running 100 miles is like life in a day,
Mm.
because just you experience everything, right? The expectation, the excitement of starting a journey, but then as the journey goes, there's highs and lows, whether that's blisters or cramps or fatigue, whatever. And it's kind of like a summary of what life is. You have all these goals and hopes, but then things can sidetrack it. But then at the end of it all, the growth that you go through when you're done, I mean, it prepares you for so many other challenges, and it just gets you excited to do it again. And it's kind of like giving birth. Not that I've ever had that experience,
Good.
but right, women say it's like when it's over, they forget about the pain.
Yeah.
And it's so common. You'll do a 100-mile race, and the next couple of days you can barely walk, and then the next thing you know, you're on, the race websites. Okay, what's next? What's next? So that was kind of how I got started into it. And then because I was so concerned with my own, physical well-being and training and gaining durability to withstand these races, I just started learning more and more. And then that's what kind of gave me the boost to say, okay, my knowledge base is getting really good. I'm figuring out what works for me. I'm reading about what works for other people. And so that's when I became a certified personal trainer and weight loss consultant, because I thought, well, let me share this and, get other people motivated. It's like, I just want them to enjoy this sport, and it just whatever their level is, just to get out there and enjoy the kind of the spiritual feeling even of running. There's just such a simplicity to it.
Mm-hmm.
The crunch of the leaves in the fall, or just to hear your own breath or the bird song in the morning. I just love that experience. And I want other people to enjoy that too.
Awesome. Wow. You're crazy. Um, are you running? So first of all, for you, is there always something that you're training for? Do you ever run for fun? Tell me
Oh
about that
yeah.
a little bit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, running for fun is that's just part of my daily routine. Yeah. I mean, I don't have anything specific on the calendar right now. In fact, since COVID began, I haven't even run an official
Okay.
formal race. I've done some 50Ks on my own, in the neighborhood just for fun and things like that. But yeah, it's all about fun. In fact, I would honestly say that the actual process and the training is almost more fun. The actual event is just kind of a celebration of your training, but sitting down, writing out the training plan, ticking those workouts off on the calendar, that's really the fun part, the process of it all for me.
Yeah. Wow. I want to talk about a phrase you use, the ultra tendencies.
Yeah.
Tell me what I want to know is how do I get them? If I is that something you feel like someone come with that, or can you develop ultra tendencies?
Well, I think ultra tendencies, I do think some people are just more inclined to it. And maybe you're one of those people, maybe you know those people, the guy that does the flip off the diving board versus just jumping in feet first at the pool. You're like, it's kind of like he's wants to take a little risk. But I think it's very related to the growth mindset
Okay.
because when you really have that ultra mindset or ultra tendencies, you're not afraid of failure. In fact, a lot of the people that are doing it, they're embracing that challenge because there's a good possibility you're going to fail. In some cases, even a likelihood. There's certain ultra races where there's not even a finisher for many years in a row. It's that
Yeah.
hard. So you imagine everybody that's in that race, they know I probably am not getting through this. I'm not going to finish. But what's the challenge? They're not in it just for the finish line. It's to kind of peel back the layers and find out, okay, what am I really made of? What's in here? And certain things in life can bring that out of us, right? Tragedies, a grave illness, uh, death of a loved one, that'll strip us down the same way, and unfortunately, sometimes that happens and we just never knew what was there. And, having that ultra mindset's kind of like a little bit of a shortcut in a
Mm.
modern era where there's so much convenience and luxury and easy living. It gives us a chance to kind of get to know ourselves on a different level and grow. It's just that idea of exploring a new limit, and maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but at least you tried it. And if you learn something about yourself in the process, then it was worth the journey.
Wow. Nice. I love that. That is that helps me to understand your brain a little bit better. Because like I
Yeah,
said, I'm just like, this guy's crazy. He's nuts. I'm not the guy doing the flip. I'm just like jumping in feet
right.
first or yeah. Um, hmm. But I
Yeah,
love
but I
that.
think
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think though, for somebody that feels that way, then just starting with the growth mindset in other ways, right? Like try a new restaurant,
Hmm.
try a new food, a new ethnic food you've never tried before that you thought you would never try. And the same idea would be even for like an event. If there's an event you think, oh, I would, like you're saying, I would never 50K, well, then that's exactly what you need to do. Then sign up for a 50K, you know, and, failure could be a possibility, but enjoying the process and seeing what you're going to have to change with diet and fitness and habits and just exploring that's how you get there. And really, that's why I said everybody could do it. Anybody could do it. It's just about having that motivation or at least the willingness to try it.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think too, as you were talking about, there's challenges that we go through in life that we don't get to choose. Um, I One of the thoughts I had was with the ultra tendencies or doing these events, you're controlling that, right? You're like, this is not going to be no, I was going to say this is not going to be enjoyable, but there's going to be some pain, there's going to be some ups, and there's going to be downs, but I put myself here, I chose it. And i I have to imagine, I mean, that's it's good to kind of practice going through something difficult when you can choose it rather than, like you mentioned, like we try to make our life as easy as we can all the time. And then problems are going to come, challenges are going to come that you didn't choose. And then you find out what's inside.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Begin within, right? And
Yeah.
it's a common saying with ultra marathons. It doesn't always get worse. And that's a great life lesson too,
Mm,
especially when we are in those difficult times. You could be 40 or 50 miles into an ultra and you've got another 40 or 50 and you're like, there's no way. There's no way I can do it. And because at that moment you might be feeling certain things already and you think, well, if this is how I feel halfway through, how am I going to feel in another 20 miles? But the
yeah.
reality is it doesn't always get worse. And
Mm,
the same thing with life. Sometimes we feel like, wow, this challenge, or this heartache, but it may not get worse. Sometimes things can turn around, but we just have to keep going.
yeah. Oh, that's great. You know, having you here on the show, those are the types of things that I was really excited to hear is those lessons that apply to the bigger journey of life. I'm curious to know if someone's listening and they're like, this guy's crazy, and I'm so far from being able to do anything like that. I'm just at the place where I need to get started with health and fitness. From your perspective, what type of advice would you give, or what would you recommend as like the best first step or the best way for them to proceed from that place?
Yeah, I think you said it even in your question there. The best first step is the first step. You just have to start somewhere. And then I think the key is consistency is king. You just have to stack the habits day after day, 1 mile at a time, and that's what's really going to help. Just having that regularity of training. When you run 100 miles, I don't have to run 100 miles. I have to run 1 mile 100 times. So sometimes people, they have a weight loss goal and they say, I got to lose 25 pounds. No, you don't. You have to lose 1 pound 25 times. Right. So sometimes if you just break down the same way you would break down an ultra race into just 5 miles at a time, 2 miles at a time, that's the same thing. Whether you want to get started on a weight loss journey or if you want to get started on running your first 5K, just break it down. If you're going to run a 5K, maybe you're going to run 45 minutes or an hour for your first time, just run 10 minutes, and tomorrow run 12, and you just build that. And when you stretch, again, going back to it, you stretch the elasticity of the mind, and then at the same time your body will follow, because it's really a mind that's limiting our achievements. Our bodies can do it, and so it's just a matter of getting our mind to stretch and say, wait, I can do this, and just breaking it down into those daily steps. And I know on your podcast with previous guests, they talk about it all the time, right? Atomic habits, just keeping it simple, consistent, small steps first, and then just, one foot in front of the other. You just keep doing it day after day.
Awesome. What's the best way for people to connect with you, Jared?
They can just look us up at journeyrunners.com. That's our
Okay.
website, and that's got information. And then also just at Journey Runners on Instagram. Sometimes we're posting some different things there. But yeah, we still have openings, and we love working with people. Sometimes people think, oh, I have to be an ultra runner. No, actually, a lot of our people we work with are just injured. A lot of them come to us. They would love to run more, or they enjoy running, but they keep having little injuries flare up. And so, we work with them to get them that durability that then can lead to that consistency that can lead to those results.
Nice. Cool. Well, I'll put the links in the show notes for sure. Thank you, Jared Scray, for being here with us.
Well, thank you, Nate.
I want to thank Jared so much for being here on the show. As usual, links to connect with him are in the show notes waiting for you. So please do that as well. Like I mentioned at the outset, it may be that you have no desire to be an ultra runner. And I don't know if I'm much closer to wanting to do that after talking to Jared. But what I am closer to is wrapping my head around why people do it. And it's such an awesome lesson for us. And I want to go back to one question that he used in the interview that really helped me the most to start moving toward a better understanding. And I think also figuring out how it is that we can learn from it. If we're in the process of just trying to be healthier, just trying to incorporate healthy habits into life, which I know so many of you and myself included are. You're in that process, and I love you for that. There's this one question that I want to highlight. What are you made of? Asking ourselves, what am I made of? And appreciating that is really that's the pursuit that these ultra runners are after, trying to understand that question. And in that pursuit, it allows them to not be so afraid of, a short-term failure, or maybe even, like Jared mentioned, signing up for an event that they might not even finish. What is it that drives them to do that? It's to find the answer to that question. What am I made of? And in the pursuit of that, we have all of the other, beneficial, the mindsets are built around understanding that question, being curious about that question, and then taking action to find the answer. And of course, if we see something that we don't like, making adjustments. I love the word that he uses too, becoming more durable. And I think we apply that, of course, physically, right? I need to be physically durable if I'm going to run these really long races. But what about mentally and emotionally? Durable, able to face challenges and get through them. And it all starts with wanting to know the answer to that question. What am I made of? What are you made of? I want you to focus on that. Think about that a little bit as you move on from listening to this episode. And what I love about it is facing it with true curiosity, true interest, and knowing that maybe seeing an answer that doesn't thrill you. What am I made of? Well, I'm made of the type of stuff that doesn't even want to sign up for the race, right? That's okay. But what are you going to do if you find an answer to the question that you're not thrilled about? And I think that's the other thing with the ultra tendencies, this ultra mentality is we don't want to be okay with finishing the race and even coming in first, right? The idea is I'm going to push myself to a new challenge to find out what I'm made of, knowing that I'm going to adapt, I'm going to grow, I'm going to adjust, and I'm going to become a better version of myself because of having faced that challenge and having been able to kind of be in control of when I do it, what I choose to do, etc. I think that's such a valuable mindset for us to have as we just say, I just want to be healthier. Maybe I want to lose a little weight. I want to feel better. I want to have more energy. But those things will come as we keep finding the answer to what am I made of? And as we select a challenge that we can achieve, pushing the boundary a little bit after that. We talk about small steps. Jared highlighted that again. We hear that again and again here on the Begin Within podcast. But the idea is pick a goal, achieve it, then move the boundary. And as we do that, that's how we become better. That's the only way to do it. If we make it easier and easier and easier and easier, we're not going to be growing. The only way to do it is to push the boundary, try to lift something heavier, try to move a little bit farther, try to change or attack a habit in an area of life that we know there's a lot of opportunity. That's how we grow. That's how we change. And that's the ultra mindset. Whether or not you're going to be out there running these ridiculously long races with Jared, and his clients, or if you're just going to be in the ridiculously long race called life, which is full of challenges, full of opportunities for us to find out what we're made of. And we're going to find out whether we seek the answer or not. So my encouragement to you is seek the answer. Take control of the process. Keep growing, keep developing. Find out what you're made of. Hey, if you want to listen to some more content that we've already created around this idea, here's what I want to encourage you to do. Go back to episode number 2. That was an interview I did with Chris Miller, and that one was called Find Out What You're Capable Of. Episode 2, great place to listen. Another one, episode 8, where we attack the theme, how the self-experimentation mindset can help you. And then around the idea of failure, I would love for you to go to episode 18. That was an interview I did with Mandy Holden, who's a friend of the show. She's been on the podcast a few times. How to keep your forward momentum. We talked about why falling off the fitness wagon is a good thing. We talked about that concept. So check those out. Episode 2, episode 8, episode 18. I'll mention those in the show notes as well, so you can reference back to them. If you haven't heard them before, definitely give them a listen. If you had listened to them when they first came out, wow, go back and benefit from the experience and the wisdom of those individuals, because they're in the process right along with you and me. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, being here with me, sharing some time and some attention with me on the Begin Within podcast. I will talk to you again